Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to robmotivejt. Hey, there is an option, a feature, a function in my Jeep Gladiator that seems to not be working anymore. And I gotta say, I am pretty darn happy about it. What I'm talking about is the auto stop feature. You know, generally when I jump in the Gladiator and take off, I hit the auto stop defeat button, the off button. It lights up. I don't have to worry about the auto stop. But I must admit, occasionally I forget, or maybe I go to a store, I get out, I get back in the Jeep, and I forget to hit the button. But I have noticed recently that system does not seem to be activating, which I am very happy about. And I'm not getting any notifications on the gauge cluster either. You know, that infamous check engine light, auto stop failure, see your dealer right away, you got a problem. I'm not getting any of those warnings, and I like that. However, it always concerns me, even though this is something that I don't want to work, when something doesn't work, because if that's the case, it means there's some kind of an issue. And my biggest fear is that issue is going to bleed over into other things, that maybe it can cause other problems. You know, I made a video recently about the transmission shifting being a little bit weird, and then I start to think, well, gee, you know, the auto stop shuts the engine off, which in essence disables the transmission, so to speak. I mean, it's not functioning, if you will. So could it be that there is something in the programming that has defeated, thank goodness, the auto stop system, as well as cause some sort of a programming glitch with the way that the truck shifts? And is there something more coming down the road? Am I going to start seeing check engine lights? Am I going to have other problems? You know, it's too bad, really. I feel this way because I know that Jeep in general is not the most reliable brand out there. Hear about things all the time. I've been hearing recently from a few people about the back window, about a leak in the back window. Folks that have had this problem have taken it in, had it repaired, and then a couple months later, they're having the same problem. Don't know why that would be. A window, a seal, I mean, it should be pretty simple to fix, right? It really shouldn't be something that takes some massive undertaking or engineering change, right? You just replace the seal, make sure the window, if you have to, is caulked well. I mean, if you really have to. Anything to fix it so that the customer doesn't have to deal with it. But I keep hearing about this problem recurring. And it is the seal, from what I've been told. However, it just doesn't seem to be something that Jeep can wrap their hands around and fix. It's very odd. Another problem that I've heard of, you know, recently with the Gladiator is the engine. People having some troubles with the engine, having to take it in and have things redone. Not something that you want to hear, especially if you've got a relatively low mileage Jeep. These things seem to be happening under 50,000, under 30,000 miles. I mean, that's barely broken in, right? The Jeep ought to last at least, I can't remember, I did a video a while back about the longevity. How long is a Jeep Gladiator supposed to last? I think it's somewhere 150 to 250,000 miles, something like that, before it needs any kind of work. In other words, you ought to be able to drive your Jeep Gladiator basically trouble-free and only perform normal maintenance until you get somewhere between the 150 and 250,000 mile range. Now on mine, I haven't really had any issues other than the radio black screen, the engine vibration, and that's really about it. Pretty good for what I've heard about problems that you can have with the Jeep Gladiator. And that brings me to thinking, you know, I mentioned in the previous video about potentially switching out to a manual transmission. And I'm wondering, you know, this Gladiator is a 2021, so we have 22, 23, and 24 before we hit the 3-year mark and have to start worrying about non-warranty work. In other words, if something goes wrong, and now I'm going to have to foot the bill. I don't want to do that. And that might be in the back of my head, you know, why I trade vehicles off more frequently, because I really don't want to run out of warranty and have to pay the money myself. I mean, I already paid for it once. I don't want to pay it again, particularly when I don't put thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of miles of vehicle, or particularly when I don't put tens of thousands of miles on my vehicles. This one right now has 4,312 miles. Now, before you start flaming me on here, it's not that I don't drive much, it's that I have two other vehicles I split the time with. Still pretty low on miles, but nonetheless, not a ton. So there is the consideration for me to go ahead and trade off before any of these weird things start happening, and they're not covered under warranty. And you know, I'll add something here about warranty. You know, a lot of people will say when it comes to problems with vehicles, even if they're known, that, well, you've got warranty, you don't have to worry about it. But do you really want to spend your time sitting at the dealership, constantly making trips back and forth, or if you're unlucky enough to have one of these vehicles where it takes weeks or multiple weeks or even months for the dealership to fix? You know, a friend of mine had a Chevy Silverado. He had a transmission problem. That vehicle has under 50,000 miles on it, and I believe under 20,000 when he had his first transmission problem. The first time he took it in, it was at the dealership for a while. They had to repair the transmission. Then, just recently, he had to take it to the dealership again for another transmission problem. Except this time, the dealership was telling him that they didn't have anybody to work on it. It sat there for, I think, at least a couple of weeks, something like that, and nothing had been done. I will say he did trade it off. If you watch my Robmotive channel, then you know it was for a Toyota Tundra. Pretty good looking Tundra too, by the way. It was used, about 11,000 miles, runs perfectly, of course. It's like brand new. White, it's got that Stormtrooper look to it, all blacked out. Just a really nice truck, and I think he's going to have much better success driving a Toyota than he did the Chevy. And it's too bad, you know, going back to the Jeep, I think they have an awesome product in the Gladiator. You know, I've mentioned several times on this channel that I love the Jeep Gladiator, that there will never not be one on the channel, and that's true. Whether it's an automatic, whether it's a manual transmission, whether it's in two-door truck format, which I still would consider a Gladiator, even though Jeep might call it a truck. What do you think about that? If Jeep put out a two-door truck, would it still be a Gladiator, or would it be a completely different model and fall under a different name and really not even be a Gladiator anymore? Leave a comment, let me know. I'd be curious to know what you think about that. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.